I'm having some glitch with my internet, so I might fall out. It's happened twice already. So if it happens, please continue. You are all experts here. Take on things and manage things yourself. It's about listening to every one of you, learning from you. What have you learned? What's new? What's more? What are your success stories? And if you have any questions of all that we have done so far, please feel free to ask questions. Our team says 20 weeks manuscript training. I'm very sure we spent more than 20 weeks. And after this research open day, we still have 4 more weeks to go. One on grant writing. Somebody's going to come in, Dr. Titus will come in and share his own experience and what it means to create those unique ideas and thoughts about grant writing. After that, we'll have 2 sessions with Professor Taiwo, who will teach us about quantitative research and data analysis and reporting. And then finally, the week one I missed on ethics, I'll do that, and then we'll go on a break before we start another round of training. On that note, I'll open up the space to hear from you. What has it been like spending all this time on the manuscript writing webinars? And what are the questions that you have to ask? What is still outstanding issues for you in terms of your manuscript writing? What are the questions? What are the uncertainties? What has been your experience? We're all here together to answer these questions. Once again, if for any reason I fall off, please take over management with yourself and engage in the space together, and let's make the best of this open day. All right. If there's anybody that has something to talk about at this time, please let me see your electronic hand, and then I can ask you to please or Toby would unmute your mic and enable you speak. Over to you. It's your day, so let's have it coming. Anybody who wants to speak?
Good morning, ma'am. It's Toby.
Yes, Toby here.
Yeah. So those, they can unmute themselves once they indicate that they want to speak. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
All right then. Perfect. Thank you. So anybody who wants to share thoughts, who wants to ask questions, who wants to say anything, please raise your hand and let me call you. I've not seen any hands yet. It's your space. I don't have anything to talk about today. So okay. If you don't have anything to talk about, then we'll just close the meeting. It's your space today, not mine. Thank you, Kudus. Always nice to have you here. Please go ahead.
Good morning, man. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for giving us this opportunity of having an open research day. I'd like to start the conversation by asking a question, which is a lot of us early career researchers usually have this inertia to start the process, oftentimes due to the fact that we feel like we're not experienced enough to start, or because we are scared that the knowledge you have is not enough to have a good manuscript or paper. What would be your advice to early career researchers who have these thoughts? Thank you, ma.
Thank you very much. I think Kudus, you asked an excellent question. And for me to answer that, I'll tell you that even if you're the first time you are writing a manuscript is as an early career researcher, that's already starting later than necessary. The ideal time for you to start writing the manuscript is when we were in medical school, in your undergraduate years, because your work within the university is about generating new knowledge at every level of your education. So if ideally by your final year you haven't written a paper, that's already one down. And why do I say this? I do have kids and my kids started school in Britain from A levels. At that time, you're already writing term papers. If you see kids that go to, I quality school, you write term papers. You're already writing those term papers that you think you're writing in university. They already have started writing it in primary and secondary school. So they are used to writing term papers, writing essays that are generating challenging norms. And so by the time they're in university, they've left that level and they're generating manuscripts. And I do know that very well. Sweden, other schools, this thesis that you do in your undergraduate days is manuscripts because they're not wasting resources, they're joining. So if as an early researchers, that's the first time you consider yourself as a late starter into the business of manuscript writing. And the second thing I say, apologies, it seems my internet is not stable. I hope you can hear me. My internet is not stable. The second thing I say is that on our challenge, thank you. Every success story started with the first step. Every single success story started with the first step. Every single success story started with the first step. Nobody was born with a success. With a success, everyone that created a success story for themselves created it. They started somewhere. If you allow fear to hold you back from doing anything, there's nobody to blame. It's just you. You have to overcome your fear. Just look around. If everybody is doing anything, you can do it now. Team. If anybody is doing anything, you can do it. Because what? They're just you. They have the same brain, the same hands, the same everything. They just chose to choose the challenge. So I have gone round and round in answering your question. In summary, if you're an early career researcher, you're still hesitant about writing a manuscript because you think it's too early for you. Early career researcher means that you are coming to learn to become an expert researcher. That is what it says. That's what it means. But your work as writing manuscript ideally starts from the very day you enter the university. Because when you enter the university, what you signed on to is generating new knowledge. Okay? And when you generate new knowledge, you share it. At that time, maybe your first manuscript might not go into a Q1 level journal. It might go into your faculty journal or an university journal or something like that. But you are in the university to generate knowledge as an undergraduate student, least of all as a postgraduate student. Therefore, your coming in as a postgraduate student should not be your first time. I hope that answers you. I hope I answered your question. Okay, I can't hear you anymore. Yes, Oluwadamilola Oyadeji. Please unmute your mic. Toby, can you support them to unmute their mic? I think there's a problem with unmuting mics.
They've all been granted access, ma.
Okay. Oluwadamilola Oyadeji, please unmute your mic. I can't hear you.
While we wait for Oluwadamilola, we have a question in chat box.
Okay.
Good morning, Prof, and everyone. 2 things to clarify on the sample size calculation if I want to do a questionnaire-based study among asthma patients attending a health facility. The study population will be the hospital attendants and the prevalence either as 0.5 or the prevalence that was gotten from a previous study. Is this correct? That's for practitioners.
Prevalence will be from what is gotten from a previous study. We want to calculate the sample size. There are 2 things. You generate the prevalence from a previous study done in that environment or a proxy environment. For example, if I want to do a study in Ile-Ife, the appropriate thing is to generate the prevalence from Ile-Ife. If there isn't in Ile-Ife, then I use Osun State. If there isn't in Osun State, then I use in Southwest Nigeria. If there's not in Southwest Nigeria, then I look for any other thing in Nigeria. If there's nothing in Nigeria, I look for West Africa. If I don't see in West Africa, I look for Africa. If I don't see in Africa, I look for whatever exists around the world. However, this is the point where you do pilot studies. Your pilot study is to generate that prevalent to enable you calculate the sample size. Pilot studies are not the things that I usually see people do around. Your pilot studies to generate, that data that enables you to calculate a sample size, or you might use a pilot study to, understand the preliminaries around your work. So it's either that way. When it doesn't exist at all, the arbitrary number that is usually used when you're doing epidemiological studies is 350, because with the 350 sample, you can do sub-analysis. Once your sample size is less than 350, to be able to do a sub-analysis that gives you quality data where the confidence interval isn't wide, you will have a problem. So people would usually, when there is nothing, you would just go, of course you would justify that there is nothing, so you choose the arbitrary 350. If it's epidemiological studies, so that you are able to do quality sub-analysis. You need the numbers for your sub-analysis, otherwise your confidence interval will be wide. Once your confidence interval is wide, even if your P5 value says it's significant, then it's a query, it cannot be trusted. Because once the confidence interval is wide, what you're telling whoever is reading is that you do not have enough sample size. The study is not powered to be able to answer the research question. So that is the balance around that. Who asked the question? I hope you provide some clarity for whoever asked the question.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Thank you
very much.
Excellent. I'm glad it does. Any other person with a question? Oyadej is still raising her hands. If you cannot mute your mic, would you like to ask a question in the chat box if you cannot mute your mic and lower your hands? Yeah. Any other question or any other thing anybody wants to say? Today is not for me. That is why I send the message in the chat, in the place that it's about you. So this space can be quiet. I don't have anything to say. I'm not teaching anything today. So you have to engage us here. Okay.
We have 2 questions.
Otherwise,
Chat box already.
In the chat box.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Please go ahead, Toby.
All right. From Abiola Fafalawan.
Questions.
Yes, ma'am. These outrageous APC charges are always issues for early researchers or early career researchers. What is the way out, ma'am? And
thank you very much. I think when you talk about APC charges, it's just a fallacy. Everybody continues to repeat APC charges. Like I said, I've published 351 manuscripts in my life. And if I've paid an APC charge, probably for 20. And when I pay, it's because I choose to pay. I just want to contribute. If I have the money, I pay. For example, plus, if you submit to plus 1, and you say the corresponding author is from Nigeria, the PC drops automatically to $500. Automatically. And so when it drops to $500, I can still write and say, no, I cannot pay. But a number of times I choose to pay when I have that money, And when I don't have the money, I go to the next step. They will tell you the next step. Send evidence that you do not have, and then they waive it to 0. So when you continue to talk about APC charges, it's not true. I tell you that, and I say it with confidence, it's not true. There are multiple Q1 level journals that waive it for people from low middle income countries. Multiple. It's not 1, it's not 10, it's not 15. Teachers and say, if you're asking for a waiver, many of them will first give you a discount. My internet is behaving unstable. Many of them will first give you a discount. Then you ask again with evidence that you do not. And usually the evidence you generated from your dean or your head of department or, a university authority, and then they waive it for you. So this issue about APC outrageous or not, I've heard it too often. And I say it's a myth because you don't engage with it. There are no APCs for people from low-income countries, and for Nigeria, that is low middle. They will give you a discount first. Springer Natures is automatic. Plus is automatic. I mean, that's where I go. And there are many journals. Okay, so let's be clear on this. Now, Kudus, I'm sure Kudus, you published in Lancet, did you pay?
No, ma, it's free of charge.
Excellent. I know Doshima, you published in +1. Doshima, are you there? If Doshima is there, ask her. She didn't pay. Okay, so let's stop this myth and this issue, and then go look for a journal that is free. There are many journals that are free. Okay, there's so many. There are many. So drop this APC charges issues. Okay, and to be very sincere, they need the money to run their business. They're not for profit. Publishing houses are not for profit. They have staff. They have to pay, so they need the money. So, but you don't have to for that. Yeah, all journals need the money to run their business. They have to pay staff. So don't keep on justifying. Look, you can get an APC waiver, but if you can pay. If you have a grant, why would you apply for a grant and not make a budget for your publication? They need the money to run their business. Okay, they're not for profit. Okay, I hope that answers the question. There's another question. Yes, please can Matthias Deribadu, please can you help me understand how to do first and second cycle coding after generating your transcript? Apologies, I don't have expertise in qualitative research, but I think the slides you have Professor Ekundayo's number, so please contact her. I think our number is on the slides, the qualitative one. Could you please share the qualitative slides that Professor Ekundayo shared, the first and the second, with everybody on the Research Hub? I think you can generate. So, Matthias, you can contact her. I don't have that kind of competency to be able to answer your question. I apologize.
Okay, ma. Just to add to, hello, ma.
Yes, please.
Just to add to what you made comment on the last talk, SAGE also have some waivers for researchers from low and middle income countries. I submitted a case report and it's going to be published free of charge too. Just because I'm from.
And there are many global. There are many. Many of them will not write up front, but they will. If you write to them, they'll waive it once you have evidence. Some don't. Some would not. They would, like Frontiers, will get to a minimum at most. But rarely, it's not as if it's impossible. Rarely would they. There's some also that will just tell you they do. MDP.
Apologies for the glitch in network and our Prof is experiencing. Once again, apologies for the network glitch Prof is experiencing. She already gave an heads up, and then she'll be back to join us. Again, it's an open day session for us to interact and discuss. She has already said or mentioned earlier that we are all experts. So I will be reading some questions that we have already, and once we have thoughts about it, we can just indicate, unmute ourselves and make comments. Thank you very much. So I'm going to take a question from Dr. Adelakun. Says, please, what's the difference between abstract and a summary? All right, Prof is back. Okay, she's back.
Yeah, please, if I break again, I already informed us that I have internet challenges. But for any reason, if I break again, please continue the conversation among yourself. Please, I plead with you. You all are experts here, so you can share your thoughts. Okay. So Dr. Adelakun asks the question, what's the difference between abstract and summary? A summary is also the same as an abstract, but usually a summary is a lot longer than an abstract. For many times, they will ask you to write an abstract for your manuscript, and it's a few words, 20, 300 words. The longest I've seen anywhere is 500 words. A summary is usually a lot longer, and that they will ask a summary for thesis, and you find that summaries maybe as long as 3 pages, and for PhD maybe 6 pages. Okay. But what are both of them saying? Please pull together the key points you want to communicate. That's what both of them are saying. Okay. I hope that helps. And please, as I'm making issues, please, anybody that wants to add, anybody that wants to join in the discussion, please unmute your mic and join in the discussion. This is not about me. It's all of us. It's all of us talking. All right. This is not me coming again to give a session. Please, if you also have answers, please answer questions also. Okay. My darling sister Ofuworola says, when a journal says the study is not a right fit and does not give any other reason for not accepting the manuscript, what does it mean, especially for a qualitative study? What it means largely is that you probably have chosen the wrong journal, because the journals will let you know their audience. So they let you know their audience. This manuscript to be publishing policy papers. This is about, they kind of have their focus. Many journals will write what their focus and their target audiences. So when the manuscript is not, when they review and they feel it's not focused on their target audience, then it becomes a major. They would tell you it's not the right fit. I remember once when I wrote about SDG, like I wrote SDG 8 and oral health. They sent it back. I now had to communicate with the editor that why. And then he explained to me that it's the way I wrote my cover letter. My cover letter gave priority to SDG 8 rather than the oral health issue. Because the journal is not an SDG 8 related journal, they sent it back. And so he asked me to reverse the prominence I gave to the oral health issue. But if I give prominence to the oral health issue, then it shows that it's the oral health issues that is the priority, not SDG 8. So I had to rewrite the cover letter, and the introduction gave priority to oral health rather than SDG 8, and that way they pull it through the review. So it's the way you write. If it's not focused on the target audience, then they will write something like not a right fit. But having said that, there are also other reasons that journals reject manuscript, but they write it politely. This not a right fit is not a polite one. It's likely they feel it did not meet their target audience. When you write, because they have a plagiarism check, journals have plagiarism checks. I've worked for a long time with BMC. Once the plagiarism check with BMC is as high as 27%, they will reject the manuscript. But they would not tell you that it is plagiarism. They won't tell you it's plagiarism because they don't want any lawsuit or any wildlife. They will just say, thank you, your manuscripts, there are many manuscripts you have, but yours is not meeting. Especially when you receive a reject from a manuscript and there is no peer review. No, is that okay? Yeah, one of the things is that there's no fit. Another thing, for many times I know in BMC, is plagiarism. I think there's another journal that I was in, and the plagiarism check score was 15%. So all of them have their different level. There's another one that I'm in think it's Frontiers, their plagiarism check score is 35%. So all of them have their different check levels. So, but once you don't, for plagiarism, they don't give you reason, they just reject it. So be careful. And one of the things you can do, there are two things you must do before you submit your manuscript. One, you can do the plagiarism check yourself. There are plagiarism check softwares. Do the plagiarism check. I think there has been somebody that contacted the platform and said, oh, I wanted to do the plagiarism check. Do you have a software? And somebody offered and they helped the person check. So this is why you have your network. Ask on the platform if there's anybody that can do it well, because it comes as a cost. It's not all institution that has it, but some people do have. Do your plagiarism check yourself and then know what the level is and adjust it before you submit. The second must be the Grammarly. You must check your grammar and be sure that you have very minimal grammar, so that at least by the time you're submitting, it's 70-80% grammar clean. Okay, those are things you can do yourself. Ofo, I hope I answered your question. Ofo, I hope I answered your question. Okay, I can't hear you, but let me know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Very cool. Damilola Oyadeji says, can you explain the narrative and historical methods and inductive approach to qualitative data research? I think you've asked a brilliant question, Damilola Oyadeji. I'll open up the space for anyone who can answer that. I do qualitative research, but I'm not an expert. I go to those that are expert to support me to do. So I'm sorry, I am not competent to answer the question, but I open up the space. Please, if there's anyone who can answer the question, please do support with answering the question. I'll pause for a while. If there's anybody here who can answer the question, please do help answer the question. Thank you. Okay. All right. Or otherwise, when Dr. Lawal shares the qualitative slides, you would see Professor Ekundayo's email address. Please do contact her to help you and would clarify these questions. Okay. Apologies, I can't be of help with this level of detail. Damilola Ayowole says, while my manuscript sometimes gets stopped around the discussion, this has made me have a lot of uncompleted manuscripts. How can I get out of persistent intellectual restrictions? I think you ask an excellent question. And for me, it's almost like a straightforward answer. If you know the ABC of writing manuscripts, it is very likely it will help you with addressing what you need to write, because there are outlines of what is expected. Your first paragraph in your discussion should be a summary of your results without you repeating the figures that you got in your results. Once again, apologies, I'm doing the qualitative angle. So for example, in my results, I found that there was 25% prevalence of caries and 10% of the people brushed their teeth. When I'm writing my summary, your summary is answering your objective. That's the first paragraph of your discussion. So once you do that, you'll be writing that the finding shows that 1 in 4 persons, that's your 25%, but I'm not putting 25% here again, because you shouldn't be repeating. My summary shows that 1 in 4 people have caries, however, 1 in 10, that's my 10%, brush their teeth twice daily. I find it challenging many times when people are doing this interpretation at the result stage. That's very wrong, because you're going to be approximating. In your result stage, you should be writing precisely what you found for the quantitative people. You got 27.2%, you got 33.5%, but when you are interpreting your findings, that's what your discussion is. You're interpreting your result, then you can be doing this 1 in 4, 1 in 5. So your first paragraph in your discussion is your summary of your result with respect to answering your research objective. The second paragraph is your strength, the strength of your study. What is the big deal about your study? Is this the first time that the study has been done? You've used a very good methodology. You know what it is. You have a large sample set. What is the strength of your study? The third paragraph is what is the limitation. Okay, we talk about the limitation. It's a cross-sectional study. Whatever is the limitation, it's a qualitative study. It's a study that was done in 744 local government. It was a non-probability sampling method. What are the limitations? You've already written 3 paragraphs. The subsequent paragraph is now the discussion of your results, which is each of those results that answer the objective. The big deal, if you had used a theoretical framework to justify your variables, you now find that it makes it easy to discuss, because you would use that theoretical framework to discuss your results. That's usually one of the biggest strengths. So you now look at your result through that lens. So if when I was starting, I was going to look at it through a feminist lens, I can now start discussing that the issues I found here are, the feminist angle to this discussion. So if you go like that, you find out that there is no way you would have written the first 3 paragraphs easily. The discussion, the quality of the discussion is now the area where you have to, and that's where a lot of critical thinking. So I do associate with you when you say this can be challenging. I really, really associate with you, because it is this, what you do to write a discussion is to ask yourself why. Why did you get that result? That's the question you want to answer. Why is this result like this? So you have to start reading and reading and reading about, to be able to understand why that result was like that. Because when you started, you said this was a social problem. This was a knowledge gap. Now you have found the result. The result is like every other result. Why is it every other result? Why is there no cultural difference? You're doing your own in black is the same as white. Why? That is what, and so when you're answering those why, you're postulating. You're starting to postulate and give people reason to go back and study this further. So it is every answer to the objective that you found, you have to start querying it. Why? Why was this result like this? Why was this result like this? And when you're asking, is it possible, you go and read it. Is it possibly this, you go and read it. Is it possibly this, you go and read it. And then you start to knit the answer together. So yes, it's a tough point. And the brilliance of the discussion point is that it is this discussion that allows your manuscript to be quoted. It's not your introduction. Your introduction, you're bringing people's results, people's manuscripts together, people's ideas to generate what is known and what is not known. And then by the time you get to the discussion, you are using the result you generate to now start to postulate what is feasible, what's possible. And this is why your paper is quoted. So it's a lot of intellectual input. But yes, you can overcome the intellectual restrictions by understanding what the discussion section wants. And you then try to answer what is expected in the discussion section. I hope this brief helps you a little, Damilola. And please, if there's anybody that has any other answer, please, I'll just pause for 30 seconds to allow anybody who wants to add to this. Thank you. All right. So there's Iria Gose. Apologies. I do not mean to massacre your name, but if I did not pronounce it well, I sincerely apologize. It says, would you advise publishing in societal journals that do not collect APC or publish the article behind a paywall that is not open access? Depending on what you want, I think people would prioritize open access because it increases the feasibility and the use and access to your manuscript. But if you can pay and people
let me remove it.
if you can pay and not publishing in open access makes it free, that's perfect. Toby, somebody's mic is on. Please let me to switch it off. So it's okay, but as much as possible, please avoid publishing in journals that are predator journals. Don't go to predator journals. Please, I truly beg you. I truly, sincerely kneel down and I beg you, don't go to predator journals. And once again, I'll explain why you shouldn't go to predator journals. When you publish, it's a research enterprise. You are publishing and generating information for users of that information. You're not publishing because you want to get promotion. You will get promotion. But you're publishing and getting answers to societal questions that critical people would use. Who are those that use it? Policymakers, programmers, the pharmaceutical industries. These are critical stakeholders that use this. They use this information because it is trusted that the information, by the time it is published, it has been peer reviewed. And what is coming out is factual information that they can use as stepping stones to getting the ultimate truth. So they trust it and depend on it, including the public. You find out that many people that have diseases or problems, they read manuscripts to be able to answer their own problems, including psychology, including life, including animals, whatever it is. They read, even the individuals, the public, the general public reads. But they read because they believe that the published article has been subjected to all standards that makes whatever is coming out is factual. And there are two levels of research industry controlling itself. The ethics review, where you look at scientific validity of what you want to do and ethical integrity. You must pass that before you go into the field. When you go into the field, you now have another level of subjecting to the quality of your finding. For those that publish manuscripts, it is the peer review system. For those that are thesis, that is why you have external examiners, internal examiners. They are all working to ensure that the quality of what is produced is top-notch for the users to use it in a way that it will not affect our lives, and that it should affect our lives positively and not negatively. And that is why you cannot go to a predator journal, because they do not subject the manuscripts to the rigors. They're only interested in your money. That rigor is lost. And that's why I talk about Q1, Q2. Q1, Q2 also protect their integrity, so they do the rigors. They don't just look for any reviewer. Have you ever gotten a review? For example, I am in biomedical sciences. I get somebody from a journal in engineering sending manuscript for me to review. That's a predator journal. Okay, so those are the kind of things why we don't go to predator journals. It's about, and I can tell you there are many examples. I'll tell you one very serious one in my own field. There was this researcher who was doing falsehood. He was not in the lab, and he was generating data about the use of what we call colloid expanders. If you are in medical field, for example, if you go for surgery and you lose blood, they want to give you some, to replace the volume of what you've lost. If it's very major, they can give you blood. But if it's not major, they will give you normal saline, or they will give you what is called a colloid expander. But they've removed that now. This guy was not going to the lab. He was just generating small data, 25, 35 clinical trial, and saying consistently that colloid expander was life-saving. And they were publishing it, and the world practiced surgery using colloid expander. But people were saying it, or people were dying. And this is not true. But there was evidence. What happened? How did the world break this jinx? One editor, they've already passed, the peer reviewer passed perfect. The editor now just, read and said, there's something funny about this data. That this data generated a perfect result, which is unusual in life. that this data is unusual. It's an unusual data. How can you get perfect result? And I'll tell you this kind of thing. For example, I'm on a DSMB board, and we're looking at the data, and there's no missing data. It's impossible. This is real life. How can you not have a missing data in a patient you are following up for 24 months? So these are the kind of things that experts will see. Then they now go to this guy that, please, this and this and this, please send data. You know, you are supposed to have open access data. Your data is supposed to be in public space. Somebody is supposed, ideally, if it was in public space at that time, they would have recalculated and said, send your data. This guy did not respond. They wrote him 3 times, they didn't respond. They now wrote his university, but they had a problem with this data that they should inquire. When the university now inquired, they found the man was not doing any research. He was just generating data in his room. Can you imagine? He had generated this data for years, and the world was using colloid expanders, and they were killing people. So when they now decided to do a systematic review and removed his data from the whole collection of systematic reviews, they now found that colloid was killing actually. So this is the kind of thing we're talking about. When there isn't proper, even in the proper peer review system, I'm just telling you one of many. If you go into the industry, there's so many people that have had to withdraw licensures for drugs because of falsehood of information. When you are looking for p-value, and in the name of looking for p-value, you are generating false results. So even when the proper peer review, there might still be glitches and leaches, and we saw that in COVID. And retraction is possible. But please don't go to the place where purposefully they will be leaching fake data that the people in the public cannot see. The policymakers, the programmers, the individuals reading this, the people using the data, the whole entire enterprise using data, businesses cannot distinguish. The people that can distinguish are the peer reviewers, and they must have competency. If you go and ask an early career researcher to review a manuscript, it can't have the same competency as somebody that has been in the industry forever. And that's the difference, the distinction. You find out that Q1 journal is not anyone that they look for. You must have competency to become a peer reviewer, a selector. Apologies for the long story, but this is the kind of thing I hope my long story helps you. Irag Mosi or side before. I hope it helps. If you don't have money and you are going to a job, yes, please, it's okay to publish. I mean, it affects you don't have money, but please don't go to somewhere that is not of quality. Go to somewhere that is quality. Thank you very much. And please, once again, if others have answers, please provide answers. Khadija asks a question. It says, my question is related to the lectures we had last week on AIs. Since I downloaded the Copilot, I have not been able to use it. You saw, I don't know about AIs. My own, I use ChatGPT. That's all I use. I don't know about Copilot. I'm sure. I think what he said, if I remember that, for you to be able to use Copilot, you must be signed on Microsoft, I think so. So you must be registered, like you are registered on Gmail, and you're able to use all the Gmail accomplice. It's the same with Copilot. For you to use Copilot, you must be registered on Microsoft, I think, something like that. That's the much I know, but I use ChatGPT very well. If you can, it gave his phone, his email contact. I think you should contact him to help you sort that out. Charlie says, please, I would like to know if it comes up in the thesis topic, the tool can be used to solve the problem, be part of it. Because currently I'm having a bit of difficulty with getting started, as my supervisor insists that the tool to be used shouldn't be mentioned in the topic. Yeah. The standard things about what should be mentioned in your topic. I'm not sure tools needs to be mentioned, but I don't think a topic is what should limit you about your thesis. Apologies, maybe I don't know how your own institution work. it's true you would have to submit your topic to your college or your postgraduate college, but that cannot limit you. What limits you is your content. You can always walk around. If your supervisor says don't put topic, then don't put topic now. And don't put the name of two. I don't think that's any issue. If he says don't put name of two, don't put name of two. That's the least. Your thesis is not your title. Your thesis is your content. So I don't think you should make an issue of that. If it says don't put two, don't put two. But your thesis is your content. It's the content. And that's what you should focus on. Because by the time you're publishing, you will use a different, yeah. I hope that helps. The Bella says, thank you. When there is a call for abstract submission, does it involve only completed? Yes. When there's a call for abstract submission, it is expected you write your abstract after you've completed your research, except they invite you specially. And I do know that there are people that when they're doing when they have conferences, I go to CRO and I was part of CRO management. Because of your expertise, they invite you. And in those places, they can say, come and present what you are planning to do. And therefore, your manuscript, your abstract will be limited to methodology, which is planned methodology, not necessarily what you've done. But for everybody, routinely, you only write an abstract after you've when you it's fraud in research. You only submit the same, and thanks Anita for asking that question. Really great question. You submit a paper to a journal at different times. You can not submit the same manuscript to two different journals saying, oh, this one will work, this one will not work. No. You submit it to one. If for any reason, maybe it's taking time or something, you withdraw officially. That means you write a letter to them and say you want to withdraw and move your journal to another publishing house. It is a research crime to send your manuscript to two journals at the same time. Okay? Please don't do that. Okay? Thank you for asking that brilliant question. What's the rule guiding manuscript writing with regard to the number of people that there's no rule about the number of people. Khadija is asking about the number of authors. There's no number. Like I said, there's been a manuscript on COVID that it was 27 page long. The number of authors on that manuscript. The manuscript was about 15 pages long. The author list was 27 pages long. There's no limit. As long as they have authenticity to be co-authors, it is a crime. It is a crime, and I repeat it again, it is a crime for you to list people on a manuscript that did not contribute to it. There's author contribution requirements. They must have had intellectual input, they must have had input in the data collection, and they must have had input in the writing, intellectual property contribution. They must meet that three. The fact that you did data collection alone does not make you an author. If you are not involved in intellectual input and as well as writing the manuscript, you must meet these three at the minimum to be known as an author. Once you put somebody's name and you ask this person, if you have to go to jail for this manuscript, would you go to jail? And this person will say, I don't know. Please know that that is not an author, because you have no ownership to the content of that. And what it does is that when you put people's names that are not author, you are giving false credit to people that do not own the intellectual property right. You're giving false credit to them. So please, the fact that there's no long list of author does not mean people that do not meet the authorship criteria should be listed as author. Having said that, single authors in the industry does not have a place. I do appreciate that people in arts and humanities, there's a place for single authorship in the work they do. Their work is peculiar. You're doing an artistic work. But when you're writing manuscript per se, single authorship does not have recognition and place, and you likely would not get into a Q1, Q2 journal with a single author. Why? Because with a single author, the risk of committing crime is very high. It's very high. Number two, there's no way you can go through the thoroughness required of writing a manuscript it can be a single author. What it means is that when you put a single author, you did not recognize other people that should otherwise be co-authors. You cannot on your own be collecting data. You cannot on your own write the questionnaire, write the ethics, write the intellectual, do the data, are only you writing quality manuscripts in a per se. So it is either you are doing it on your own with the complete risk of manipulating data, doing things at your convenience, all those things. So that is the headache with single authorship. People don't trust any single authorship because the risk is high. If you decide to be writing things that nobody else knows, if you write it in your room, so the risk of falsehood is high with the single author. The risk of improper error, even if you are standardized as a single person, the risk of error and repeated error occurring in your data is very high. Okay, so this is the risk with single authors, and if you do an analysis, you start to see that single authorship is almost going into oblivion. But I do recognize once again, with due respect, that in the Faculty of Arts and Fine Arts especially, they still do single authors. Damilola Olani say something. But coming to an end. Thank you. Alternative is not accessible to all. Is it possible to get links? I can't get links. Once again, what I said is that if you need help, ask in the. Well, let me read it out. It says, "Thank you for mentioning plagiarism checks and grammar checks for exam." I'm sure you say example. I'm sure I assume this is what you're saying for exam. Turnitin is not accessible to all. Is it possible to get some links to free plagiarism checks? I'm sure if you do a Google check, and Damilola Olani, you will find some that can give you free checks for a period of time, and you can use it. But once again, like I gave the example, there was somebody who needed the check and asked on the platform, "I need this check. Please, can somebody help me?" And somebody said, "Send your documents." So that is what the platform is there. You can have all the human resources that can support you to do your piece of work, and whatever it is that you would need. You have human resources tools that can support you to do that. My own institution doesn't have for grammar. Please help me to them. And if they have, they would invite you. Bakao Ali, is there a software to reduce after plagiarism test? When you do your plagiarism test, it will show you where there are duplicates, where you copied, and then you work on it yourself. There's no tool to help you to work on it. That I know, maybe there are. I know. But one of the things I know that is very powerful is the ChatGPT. And what you do when you identify those phrases when you've done a plagiarism test, if you just command ChatGPT to rephrase, if you command ChatGPT to rephrase, you find out that you use languages that is not plagiarized, and that helps to reduce your plagiarism score. But that shouldn't be used as a cheat, okay? Don't use it as a cheat. You just know. And the reason why I think this is important, because many of us, English is not our primary language, so we struggle. We find this article that gives you the idea you want, then you struggle with, aligning the word in a way that is saying the same thing you want to say, but yet you don't have the power of the English language to say the way it should be said. So I use ChatGPT, just command it to rephrase, and then it will rephrase, and when you get into plagiarism score, it's likely that the plagiarism score will be as low as 0. That's something I think you can find useful. And Sheku Damilola says in the qualitative research, sample population is key. What quorum of sample population is enough representation of others, especially when the research is pitched in a sensitive issue? I think you yourself have already noted, depending on what you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a rare, for example, I want to do a study that is looking at LGBT and sexual harassment in university institution. I'm not going to get 35, 54 people. So if I get 3-5 people, that gives me the quality of information that is necessary to generate. That's strong enough. I've read a qualitative paper that it was one person, just one person that they interviewed, but it was powerful. It was powerful what they did. I've read one where it was a reflex. They used a reflexism, where it was 3 of them that worked on it that reflected that what they did. Very powerful, very, very powerful. Okay, so nobody can tell you what is what, but I want to do something on knowledge, attitude, and I want to do a study on why pregnant women do not use the dental clinic. And then I'm going for three participants. Of course, even you yourself know that that's not enough sample size. But everybody does know, it's public knowledge, that when you're doing quantitative research, the threshold is usually 12 respondents. But you continue until you get to saturation. Saturation is the key determinant. When you are asking the same thing, and there's nothing new you're generating, you're hearing it, you're listening to it, then you know you've reached saturation. Yeah, PhD study, I did my work and I used 54. I had to do 54 respond. As at that, there's a very to the field to ask questions. So minimum 12, but these are basic rules. But the qualitative research is too wide. It's too wide. Qualitative research is not about focus group discussion, KI. They so wide. Depending on what you want to do, what element, what aspect of qualitative data you're doing, then you can be discussing about sample size. But the big deal is saturation. Okay, I hope that helps. Carmen Augustine, please, aside Lancet and PLOS ONE, which thought publishing house? There's so many. We'll go to Q1 journals. There are so many that gives waivers. It's not just PLOS ONE or Lancet. There's so many, BMC, BMJ, all of them. Or you must do your homework also. Don't use this platform as an excuse to not do your homework. Excellent, thank you, Apostle J. Mary Olaleye. Go to Springer Nature. Springer Nature is the most everywhere. It is an automatic. If you go to Springer Nature, all the journals that are under Springer Nature definitely gives APC waivers. Thank you so much, Olaleye Abosedi, for helping out with that. Oluwafumi Aminu says, what's the difference between abstract and extended abstract? I guess it's the same thing. There are more words. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I've never heard of extended abstract. But I think check the dictionary or ask the people that said extended. I've never in my life heard of extended abstract. So I actually don't know what it means, but I'm sure maybe somebody here knows. We have 2 more minutes and I want to end on time. How can you use an AI-supported software without being detected? Why do you want to use an AI-supported software and you don't want to be detected? Why? If you use AI, you tell the world you use the AI now. Why don't you want to be detected? Is it a crime to use AI? Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, you weren't hearing me. Sorry. I was answering the question on the scope of review. If you're doing a review and the literature is plenty, it means that's the scope. You can reduce the scope by reducing the years, maybe to 10 years to 5 years. But there must be a justification for the scope. There must be a justification for the scope. And it's not because it is too many that you must change the scope. It is answering your research question.